Rize is a character whose moveset allows her the leverage to be effective at most ranges, with a variety in pressure style. You can play keep away zoning by filling the screen up with projectiles, you can utilize the plus frames on her moves to pressure up close, and you can set up some pretty nasty mix-ups after knockdowns. With Rize, you have a lot of say in how most matchups play out. She's not difficult to play, but due to the nature of set play characters requiring a deeper grasp over some more advanced fighting game concepts to be effective with, along with the amount of variables that go into skillfully applying her zoning, I recommend that you pick her up only if you're already decently comfortable with the pace of the wake-up game in Ultimax. But if you really like the aesthetics of this character and her moves, then it's not really a terrible choice to play her as a beginner. Just know that you have a huge learning curve down the road. Joltier from the Persona Fight Club Discord has an in-depth guide that gives you detailed info about more nuances and advanced aspects of the character, so definitely check that out after you watch the video. Rize has some really good moves. Great hitboxes and frame data. She can play at several ranges with varying degrees of effectiveness depending on the matchup. Her knockdown pressure gets really annoying for the opponent to fight against very quickly, doubly so if you can get them into the corner. By spending a bit of meter, you can turn pretty much any hit confirm into a decently damaging combo that gives a hard knockdown with pretty impressive corner carry leading straight into your set play, and you can just mix them to death. Of course, Rize's defensive options are lacking when being pressured. She can mitigate these weaknesses a bit with her reflect specials in neutral, but her designated counterattack in her furious action leaves a little bit to be desired. And yes, she has tools to compete at all ranges, but they're not without weaknesses. Quick long range moves can shut down Rize's full screen zoning due to their slow startup, which kills your control over when you get to approach the opponent, making things much tougher. Also, opponents that can keep you in the mid-range with quick hitting attacks can really shut her down. Here's a brief overview of her moveset. As always, you can get the detailed info on dustloop.com as well as Joltio's Gitbook guide. Rize has pretty good A and B attacks. For the auto combo, you'll mostly want to keep it restricted to the first follow-up that gives an advancing strike. The standing A attacks are jump cancelable on block and hit, enabling some pretty dirty mix-up pressure. And the crouching A can't be jump cancelled, but it can be hop cancelled. The B attack's also a little quirky. Standing B turns into a projectile attack halfway through and is pretty slow both in startup and recovery, so keep that to just combos and block strings. Crouching B though is mad good. It hits low before extending the hitbox higher for anti-air purposes in neutral, so it's good for both anti-airing and high-low mix-ups. In the air, you'll get so much mileage out of her jumping B. It's multi-hitting with only the first hit being an overhead, but it can be cancelled into your other air attacks to set up some surprising situations on block. Down and B in the air gives you a sort of dive kick attack that goes straight down and converts to a sweep for the second part. Her actual sweep is pretty standard. It low profile attacks and has decent range. For persona attacks, you've got the C attacks, which gives you strong pressure at multiple ranges. Up close you get a physical hit then a projectile hit with jumping C and standing C. Crouching C gives you really good mix-up opportunities due to its plus frames. These can be tricky to use in neutral as there are some gaps and a bit of startup. The D attacks are how you really control space. You can hold them to delay the startup of the laser, and if you hit them they get inflicted with the scan condition, which gives some boosted properties to some of your attacks. Rize's reversal is pretty quirky too. She puts out a barrier that triggers the active hit part of the counter, but if you don't get hit, it'll come out after a set amount of frames anyway. You're very vulnerable if they bait this, and even when they do hit the reflect, they have time to cancel into another move, like their own DP. For the specials, first up we have Rock You. This move sets up notes on the screen, which are objects that act as projectiles and can be sent forward by your B attacks hitting them. The A version is quicker, but the B version and SB versions are plus on block. This move will mostly be used to get your set play going by locking down the opponent's options on wake up after combos. No Touching is primarily a combo tool. It can either extend or finish specific combos with a hard knockdown. Rize is one of the characters in the game with this double down command input for an additional special attack. Arrow Rain is great for combos, set play, and a bit of range pressure. If the opponent is scanned, all versions auto-target to their position instead of hitting a specific range. Platinum Disc is your range poking tool. Catch the opponent with this right at the edge of its max distance and you'll be rewarded with some plus frames to initiate your closer range pressure. When scan is active, all versions homing attack towards the opponent and give a few more hits. This next move is a counter kind of. It sets you up with a reflect and all you need to do is block and attack. C version gives pushback on physical attacks, disrupting opponents' pressure string attempts, while the D version counters projectiles, sending a homing projectile of your own back at them. The enhanced version of the move covers both options. This move is pretty much matchup dependent in terms of usefulness. You won't use it often, but when it does come in handy, it really works. Rize's first super has invincible startup for usage as a reversal, but you'll usually just use it as a combo ender to kill. The B version inflicts Rize with the rage status effect, making you unable to block. Reset Field summons orbs around Rize that can be used as attacks by pressing C or D, which puts them on the opponent's head and explodes. Pretty good super, but you do lose your basic persona attacks while it's active. The D version has slower startup, but it is invincible. And her final super is just a rhythm game. If you perform well, you do a bunch of damage. Don't try to use this in a match unless you're just having fun or you want to show off real bad, because it's not really worth it. For combos, we're trying to focus on routes that end in knockdowns long enough to set up your mix-ups. We also have a secondary objective of trying to get them to the corner where we get much more damage and even better set play. So we can use metered attacks to help facilitate that. The first combo is an easy combo off of standing A hits. The sweep is great to learn how to set up your note pressure. You want to practice some things that you can do on block here and see how you can bait DPs and other evasive actions. The trick is that the string spaces out perfectly so that the sweep connects at a range where the follow-up special Soundwave hitbox makes contact with the opponent because there's a bit of a gap between the hitbox and Rize. Now sometimes the opponent won't block and they'll just get hit by the rock UB that you finish the combo with. This is the ideal situation because we can kind of loop this set play pressure. You can follow up with this combo. You need to input a quick dash behind the note special attack and hit them with 2 standing A's. Then after the second hit of the crouching B, you can jump, let the nodes explode, so you just have to wait a little bit before you input the jumping B into jumping A and then loop back into the previous combo, going right back into the same set play. This time with a lot more corner carry. Now, Rize is one of those characters with fun crouch confirms. If you don't know what that is, hitting crouching opponents gives your attacks in a combo additional hit stun, enabling some attacks to link into attacks that they normally wouldn't. In this case, standing C into quarter circle back B. You want to get the right spacing between the standing C and the skill attack, so just practice to see what that is so you can manually adjust timing based on distance whenever you realize you've caught a crouching opponent. Most of the time, it'll be off of jump-ins that they didn't block standing up, so you can always practice with a jump B starter to get used to it. Another quirk of this combo to get used to is the timing of the shove after the lightning. There's a bit of a delay here that you need to incorporate so that you can knock the opponent right back into the second part of the lightning attack when it comes back down, so that you have enough time to set up the scan and run up to them with the combo finisher. And you can replicate this combo on non-crouching hit confirms by spending some meter for an SB disc after a sweep instead of the note pressure route that we did at the start. After the SB platinum disc, you just need to micro dash standing C. This part is kind of tricky. You can actually dash way earlier than you think you can, just looking at the animation. So once you get that down, you can just go straight into the same ending route off of the lightning and the shove. These two combos are some of the easier routes Rize has, and I think it's a good start so that you can recognize and adjust to certain game situations. But there are harder combos that end in better knockdown pressure that you can look into once you've got your feet wet with some real match experience. And now once you've got them in the corner, the real fun begins and you can start to end combos with safe jump opportunities. So this will get you started in the right direction. The corner allows you to combo into standing C and then loop back into another set of B normals. Then the first hit of another standing C into A arrow rain, followed by notes, which allows you to add a short delay before you pick them back up with a crouching A, then 2 standing A hits. The second hit of the auto combo knocks them down and gives you the safe jump at the end with the notes out for added pressure for your mix-ups. And finally, for counter hits, Rize's shove has the ability to force fatal counter state on any counter hit, which enables some really big punishes if you can react quickly enough, since there is a bit of startup on the B version of the shove. This combo should be fairly easy to execute after learning all the other ones. You're mostly just looping shoves for wall bounces and juggling the opponent. to end off with, you can always add a super to pretty much any combo route if you're in a kill situation. It just takes a little bit of adjustment. Typically, whenever you have a combo with the opponent in the air, you can combo into an A shove into the B version of the slap super and hopefully do enough damage to kill. Our game plan with Rize is pretty simple. We want to get in the opponent's face, confirm a hit, and mix them to death with the powerful set play that I talked about earlier. But how do we get there? Well, most of the time it will begin with controlling space from a distance so you can set up the approach on your terms. So you have your basic C attacks, but the real tools are the skills. Arrow Rain can both limit the opponent's offensive options and lock them down to give you a free approach. Of course, it has a lot going on before it actually rains down on them, so you have to cover for that. Scan works great for scaring the opponent into blocking preemptively because it gives tracking on all of your skill attacks. Remember, you can hold down D to keep it loaded and it won't fire until you say so while you're free to move and act. Condition them to respect this, then enjoy the free rushdown as they're kind of paralyzed into not knowing what to do. Of course, you do have the disc to throw out at mid-range against opponents that are knowledgeable enough to force that positioning, but you want to avoid playing at that range since your options from there aren't as rewarding as long and close range. Once you're in though, it's time to open them up. Using crouching A and crouching B in block strings gives you 2 low attacks for the opponent to have to watch out for, taking up a bit of their mental stack. Then you can do the usual stagger pressure, tick throws off your A attacks, jump cancels, basic stuff. But anytime you can get them blocking your jump B, it's going to be a good time for you, since you can open them up really easily with a 50-50 between canceling into jumping A for a double overhead or landing and hitting a crouching A back into another block string. And as far as block strings are concerned, keep it to your basic attack mix-ups. Rize is not really a character that you're going to want to use special attacks with in pressure strings, or if you do, very rarely, and only to check if they'll actually punish you for it. And after all of that neutral play and block pressure, once you've got the first combo and got them knocked down, with the additional pressure of your set play tools like notes, scan, arrow rain, you can pretty much freestyle, and the only thing in the way of securing the round is learning and adapting to what answers they are inclined to pull out in response to your pressure. If you want to approach this methodically, Jolteo's guide breaks things down in a pretty granular way by going into all of the various options for pressure. Defensively, your DP is pretty mediocre, so you'll want to leverage system mechanics like guard cancels from time to time to compensate. You'll quickly notice that jabbing out of pressure isn't really a great idea with Rize due to the frame data and lack of reach. In neutral, the reflectability is good in certain matchups, so don't forget about it even though you won't use it too often. And for most matchups, you have a lot of leeway in controlling the neutral game against a good chunk of the cast, but you struggle against anyone with shutdown mid-range like Ken and Mitsuru, or anybody with really fast zoning like Yukari and Liz, since you lose the neutral control that really makes Rize shine. As with anything, as you play, you'll better understand the strengths and weaknesses, and you'll be able to make the best of mostly any matchup in the game. So good luck with Rize, and see you next time.